time. Hi, everyone. On this week's show for Into the Liminal Abyss, I will be playing a recording from a local convention that I did a couple of weeks ago. This particular workshop, or panel as they call it, was on dealing with the paranormal, where I invite audience members to share their experiences, and then we discuss the reasons behind it and how to either get rid of what they're dealing with or live with what they're dealing with. So please sit back and enjoy, because whether it goes bump in the night or growls in the woods, flies through the air, or it's just something strange, it's probably going to be something that we will discuss here on Into the Liminal Abyss. Either issues or has experienced paranormal activity. Awesome. Okay. So I'm here at I'm your Wikipedia for kicking both ghost butts. So if you want to give me your experience, and if it's bothering you, let's find a solution. And if it's not, give me your experience, and we'll see, if we can interpret, what's going on. So we will start first row with this wonderful woman right here, and then we'll bounce back and back and back and back. So, go.
I'm Corey.
Hi, Corey.
I've had a couple pre-con moments, but the main moment I've had, I was in Edinburgh, Scotland, and at the castle, I was in the chapel, and, I also had some moments in Mary Queen's Close, underground, and things were kind of touching the back of me. But when I was in the chapel, I seriously felt something walk through me. It just went right through me, and I had to get out.
See, that's actually very typical, because what researchers and investigators have found with European ghosts, they're very touchy-feely. They want your attention because for so long they have done ghost hunts and ghost tours where they're calling on the spirits for activity. So the spirits have become, in my opinion, they have become so conditioned to, okay, here comes a group, which one do I get to touch? Who do I want to touch? And so they've become very conditioned to making their presence known. And what a lot of, when you're trying to get rid of spirits, what a lot of demonologists will tell you, the more attention you give something, the stronger it becomes.
I've been told I'm too open.
Yeah.
And that I need to practice closing myself. And I always forget how.
If you forget how, the best thing you can do is, if you know you're going to a haunted location, wear hematite. You can either wear the magnetic hematite, but that can cause issues if you're like with metal or you're working with electronics. So just regular hematite works really, really good as a protective element. And if you know any pagans who can charge items, they can put a good protection spell on. If you have like a hematite ring or bracelet, they can charge it so that when you go into the situation, you can touch it and use it as a touchstone, and then it brings up your shields.
Yeah, because I've been told that, one day it's going to be a benevolent entity. So I have to.
And sometimes if they like you, they stick with you.
Right.
Which is another interesting. When you go somewhere, you don't have any with you when you leave home, but when you come back, they take up residence. So that can always be a interesting situation. So yeah, I would recommend getting something hematite.
I have rings that are hematite.
Okay. So yeah, those would work really good as giving you a line of protection, and just thinking it of as your when you touch it, or you can twist it on your finger, like do one complete circle with it around your finger. And when you do that, imagine that you're putting up this force field around you or an ectoskeleton, and that they're not allowed to touch it or penetrate it. So,
Good advice.
yeah, and just keep working from there. So, okay, and now we jump over to you.
I was canoeing down in Munfordville, Kentucky, probably in 2009. And I don't know if people are familiar with Civil War, but it was the largest Civil War engagement in Kentucky that happened right here at this section of the bridge in town. And it was really creepy. It just like thunderstormed when we came. There was 4 of us, and 2 of us were waiting there. And then time moved, like probably 2,000 to 3,000 guys died right around this area where we were putting in the river. And it was full with artillery, infantry, and like cavalry units that were engaged in this area. And as soon as they dropped us off to go drop one car off, a church group came down and they were doing these river baptisms, and like they were calling out for other people. Like they were looking over into the woods and stuff and calling out. Like I guess they were Pentecostal or some sort of really kind of small, like community-based, like church that has been going for a while. Well, we paddled down probably 5-8 miles that night, and we stayed, and you couldn't sleep. It was the first night out, and you're excited, and you're ready to go. And it was maybe 12:30, 1 in the morning, and we started hearing clip-clops, clip-clops, clip-clops up on the high ridge over the river, and that would have been exactly where the Union guys were going to go. And we were like, this part of Kentucky, there's Amish, like 10 miles in any direction. The communities are close enough where they could go 10 miles or some muddy, especially in this area. It's very, very rural. And we were like, well, why would they be out at 12:30, 1:30, and like fog started settling in on us, and we were just like, we had fire, but we were chilly. It's like when that fog came down, it was like the temperature and the atmosphere. We could say that it was nothing, but who knows what those cavalry, if that was them, was it Amish? So it was kind of one of those like nights where you kind of felt cold in the bones, but not the body.
Right. What I have noticed with where there's been a battlefield, there is that residual energy, and a lot of times they're like on a constant loop where they're just reenacting, because a lot of them died so suddenly, and there was so much energy going on, so much tragic energy, so much just life lost at that moment, that a lot of them became trapped. And especially when you're dealing with anything with water, water is a really strong barrier. I know a lot of people who practice hoodoo who love the Detroit River, because once they've cast a spell, they take it and they throw it in the Detroit River, and it's sealed. It ain't coming to light ever again, and it's all trapped underneath the water. So if people died, if they were shot and they fell in the water and drowned, their spirits are attached to whatever on the lake, river, stream bed, which is why a lot of people report, even if they're standing in clear water, they'll feel something grab their legs. Because if you imagine this poor soldier is drowning to death, what's he going to do? He's going to try to grab for something to pull himself up. Well, your leg's right there. He's thinking that maybe you'll help pull him up. But generally we break the hold and we walk away because we're creeped out. The trees, the rocks, depending on what kind of mineralization is in the rocks. Limestone and quartz will hold energy.
Yeah, this is all cave. It's all limestone.
Yeah, so that's gonna hold that residual energy, and so it's very likely that the spot was very haunted, and even though they weren't completely manifesting, there was probably that energy, like.
It was palpable.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, like, has anybody been to Gettysburg? Okay, you walk out on the battlefield and you're instantly covered in goosebumps because you can just feel it. You can feel like that war was so long ago, but you can still feel it like it was going on today. And there's not been one occasion that where I've gone to Devil's Den that I haven't had my electronics screwed with. And I'm talking on one occasion I went, my digital camera died, my camcorder died, my cell phone died, all within 5 minutes of each other, and they all had full charges on them. Walked back down, got into my Jeep, drove a quarter mile away, everything came back up and was running again. So that energy is, that is left there is just so strong. So you probably, if you weren't experiencing something at that moment, something was probably building. Any, even if you didn't have anything happen in the location that you're at, maybe 50 feet down, there might have been
I totally
apparitions.
think it was that the church group that was praying like stirred.
Yeah, that can, because
I mean,
they're.
they were in the river doing river baptisms.
Mm-hmm.
I think we probably charged
It could have, and plus with a baptism, you're bringing people's souls to God. You're tying them in together. So, and that's kind of actually cruel if you think about it, to do a baptism in the river, and you're baptizing live humans and tying their souls to God when you have dead soldiers who are trapped there who will never go to either heaven or hell. They're just stuck in the liminal abyss. There's nowhere and everywhere, to them. So that's actually kind of cruel, when you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, is it known if they retain their memories, or do they just become like this kind of disconnect, functioning energy?
It depends on the type of haunting, but generally when it's a battleground type situation where there's been a mass death and everybody's dying very quickly and they don't, 1 minute you're here, the next minute you're gone. Generally what happens is you become a residual, which is like if you put a CD in and put it on repeat. It's going to go through, all the songs, but at the end of that song it's going to repeat. So from the time that the battle began and that soldier went into action till their life ended, that's their complete cycle. And then it might die down, and then the next night it starts up again. So that's typical with residual hauntings. It's on repeat constantly. And even if like the bridge was torn down, or for some reason the river was rerouted, that's not going to change the residual history right there, and it's not going to change what the spirits do. The only thing that will change is if some of the spirits are attached to some of the fixtures of the bridge, like if they had died on the bridge or against the bridge, and if those if that bridge is destroyed and moved to another location, then that spirit, because it's attached to it, might move with it. So that's the only time that there will actually be a change. And for somebody to go and do a cleansing of that area to release all this, that's a massive undertaking. You would have to have a lot of people together to do that, and they would have the whole area. So, from one side of the bridge to the other and across the bank, up the hills, that whole area you'd have to clean it in order to disperse all those spirits. That's why Gettysburg is such a hotbed for activity, because there's so many different areas that lives were lost. It's almost impossible to clear all that. So, okay, so no.
Oh, I had.
Oh, okay.
It might just be delusion, but like precog premonition stuff. I feel like it kind of heightened more. I was like been in this I was military infantry, so it was like a series of traumatic events, and I feel like sometimes that might have heightened it, and also they kind of started to kind of dissipate as I started going on medications and such from the place. I mean, it could have just also been like heightened, things kind of go haywire and stuff when you're in those like prolonged traumatic experiences in a sense. So I'm not sure if it's necessarily like PTSD or if it was precognition and premonition.
Sometimes your gut instinct, and depending on who you're talking to, um, spiritual people will tell you that that's spirit talking. Sometimes the best thing in life you can do is listening to your gut feeling. A lot of police officers will go with their gut instinct over, facts that are being told to them. If their gut instinct tells them to have their hand on their gun with the safety off while they're walking through a building, chances are there's a reason for it. So if you are having heightened experiences where you were anticipating or possibly seeing a little bit into the future, that is your gut feeling, the spirit trying to get you to listen so that you're prepared and you're not getting jumped, basically. And that's like one of the hardest things to do is listen to your gut instinct. When everybody's saying walk forward and your gut instinct is saying no, hide behind this wall, it's really hard to, fight that. But the more you listen to it, the better it is.
Yeah, I'm alive. So.
Yes. So it's actually documented that when you take medications that decrease your sensitivity to that, they do decrease. So you kind of have to, take it with a grain of salt of if you need the medication to function, then you need it. But you can still listen to your gut instinct and just pick up on things. Because generally your gut instinct has tells, and it will, like if you walk into an area and you get goosebumps and the hair standing up on your arms, something's going on. If that feeling on the back of your neck comes and you're like, you feel like, something just, scared the crap out of you and you don't know why, that's generally your gut instinct saying, hey, you need to listen because something's going to happen.
What makes some people more attuned to that kind of energy, like that kind of...
Their sensitivity to things. I know people who, if it's a full moon out, they can't sleep. They are off the walls, and ER nurses, police will tell you the full moon is when they see the craziest shit happening.
It's when my bipolar episodes are at their worst.
Yeah. So it just depends on your sensitivity to stuff. If you're somebody who shields really well and you can just walk through life not paying attention to anything and you can get across the street without getting hit, great. For the rest of us, it's like, oh, now what are you telling me? I really wanted to sleep tonight, Well, why is everything coming and bothering me? So it just depends on your sensitivity level. And sometimes brain injuries or if you've had concussions or stuff like that, that can change how you intercept things and you process things. A lot of children see ghosts, and the ghosts are real to them, and they become their imaginary friends, which is why they get so strong and powerful. And then somewhere when we hit puberty, we stop, seeing them, so, we phase them out, and when we're adults, that's when they come back, hey, remember me? I'm sorry, doggy. I didn't mean to wake you up. So it just depends on your sensitivity to things and how you process things and what's happened within your life that has become a trigger response.
Thank you.
So, okay. Who's next? Who had their hand raised? With, experience? Okay.
So, I don't know, when I was younger, my friend used to screw around with Ouija boards quite a bit, a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a weird instance where sometimes, things would shift over the house, or freaks me out. Like one day I walked in the kitchen and a dog rolled one into the room and slid all the way across to the other side of the room.
Mm-hmm.
And doors were open and closed, so it kind of seemed like it could have been like some kind of poltergeist activity. But then it kind of, I don't even know how to describe it, but she would act differently sometimes, which led to some pretty weird actions on
Uh-huh.
her part. So we kind of just kiboshed the whole thing, and even if we weren't screwing around with it, then things would happen to me, like just weird feelings and brushes behind the neck.
Mm-hmm.
I almost feel like someone would take their hand and go up and down my arm. It was just really awkward. So I don't know. I think I learned how to block it all out pretty well.
Okay.
But sometimes I still feel like it could still happen.
So here's my take on Ouija boards. Milton Bradley mass-produced these for over a century. It's been a century now because it's 2017. So it's not the Ouija board. It's mass-produced because if it was the Ouija boards, trust me, Ghostbusters would be a real-life thing and they would be on patrol constantly. What happens is when you're using a Ouija board and you have 2 or 3 people working with it, everybody's focusing their energy on that planchette. So depending on how many times you use it and how young you were learning to focus all of your energy, all of your mental, psychic energy. And then as a young child, you focused all this energy because you wanted to make the planchette move. So now you've actually developed this power, and it's just walking around with you. Think of it as being like your solar-powered Superman, but you don't know it, and yet this energy field is following you, and it's interacting with different things. Sometimes for good, sometimes bad. Now, animals will, if they sense something's off with a person, or if they are encountering energy or a disruption, they will react to it. Because for every dog that comes to me, it's going to run away from the person next to me. It just depends on your energy and how you've learned to work with it. So you probably did experience a lot of interesting phenomena, but it was the energy that you had built up and you had learned to focus. But it's like you probably didn't realize what you were doing with focusing the energy, and then you're walking around with this huge battery charge on you of energy. And when you're in a heightened emotional state, if your moods are, especially being a teenage girl, come on, how many of us didn't go off the walls with hormones and stress, and that's a bit that feeds into it a lot. And so you're young, you don't realize you've harnessed this power and focused it, and then you're dealing with all of these different events that are what every teenager goes through. But we have our mood swings, we have our outbursts, and when we do that, the power activates and it does things. And even if we don't put 2 and 2 together at the time, generally there is a tie-in between the two of them. So it could have been even if you were in the house and you said it was sheep.
No.
Oh.
I had a dog from one end of
Okay.
the other.
Okay. So even if you were in one room of the house, or you walked into another room of the house and something, and it probably didn't occur to you at the time, but something could have, made you either really, really happy or, really, really sad, the energy will, it's like a lightning bolt, and it'll go in whatever path of the least resistance is. So if you're walking past the dog bowl and something popped into your head and it triggered enough of an emotional response, it could send it across the room. Especially teenage girls are like, they're bad. Especially if they've learned to, focus any of that energy. Those are the ones we need to work with before they, cause too much damage. Because our emotions are just off the wall, and if you have that energy, it's just huge. So, was there any other?
Every once in a while, like kitchen cupboards would open and close, like just a sense of uneasiness never really left for a long time, and then we got a little bit older and weren't seeing each other as much and didn't play the same game, things like that. So we kind of calmed down a little bit. And every once in a while, I still get that feeling like there's possibly something there, but I just try to ignore it, basically.
Yeah, it could be a ghost, but what I think it is, I think it's still your residual energy, and it's the anxiety that you're feeling is just because you feel the presence of it, and because you probably haven't made the connection that it's just this energy that you've built up. So you feel it, but you don't know what it is. So it's causing an anxiety, and the more anxious you become about it, the more it's going to manifest and do things. Yeah, yeah. So it's when you feel that building up, question yourself. Why am I feeling anxious? Is there something that I'm not looking forward to doing? Is somebody bothering me? Is something bothering me? And if you come up with a no to all those questions, then it's take another step and okay, so what is this I'm feeling? And then really read into yourself and see what's going on with you and why you're feeling the anxiety, and try to dissipate it. Because if you let it build, that's when your worst case scenarios happen. Like, you're so angry and mad at about something, and then you go to do something and you totally burn the DVD player, or the car blows a tire out on the way to work, or that's when that kind of stuff happens. So it's really beneficial to read into yourself and see what's going on that could be causing those feelings of anxiety. And if you can't come up with a yes or no answer to that, then maybe ask what do you want, and see if an answer comes to you.
I don't know if I would, even if I try to do that, I don't know if I'd be, open enough to hear anything. Saying like, I can ask all those questions and go from there, but I'm not gonna believe it.
Well, the easiest thing you can do is, if you do think that it's a presence or a ghost, ask it what it wants from you, or what it's trying to tell you, and ask it to tell you in the simplest, easiest way it can, and go from there. And just look for different signs, that are going on. If you see the same word showing up, or the same time, or the same color, or things keep repeating throughout the day, then that's generally a signal to kind of take notice and look at what's going on. Okay. So, who else? Anybody else have a experience that they want to discuss or talk about, or?
I sometimes think that some of these messages can also be a comfort, because, well, let me preface this. I haven't had a younger brother who recently passed. And I have a lot of crystals around in my bedroom. And when he was very small, I'm significantly older, so he would always come to me when he was scared or something, and lay down with me to take a nap. So this was maybe about a few months after he passed. I'm in bed, falling asleep, and I feel him.
Mm-hmm.
Like he used to. It was like, okay, it's all right. So, and another thing, my nephew, his son, who is now 6, says he can hear him.
Mm-hmm.
Dad talks to him and tells him helpful things. And it's like he has an older brother who likes to be on the computer. And when my sister-in-law said, well, what does Daddy sound like? It's really soft. It's not like he's yelling at Kyle to get off the computer.
Mm-hmm.
So he's hearing things, and it's kind of, but it's a gentle thing, and it's like he's looking out for you and telling you it's all right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, our loved ones will communicate with us even after death. I had an experience, and it's probably been 17, 18 years ago. My mom's uncle had passed. And the way our house was set up, the answering machine, because I had a grooming business, a mobile grooming business at the time, the answering machine was set up in my apartment, which was attached to the main house. So I wasn't able to go to the funeral service that day because I had a full day of grooming. So it was about 20 minutes before I was actually supposed to get up to start my day, and the telephone rang, and the answering machine picked up. And the voice said, Sharon will meet you at the cemetery at 9 o'clock. So, knowing that my mom wasn't going to get this message unless I went up and told her, I went upstairs and said, you just got a message on the answering machine saying that they would meet you at the cemetery at 9 o'clock. And Mom said, well, who was it? And I said, hold on, I'll go back downstairs and I'll listen to it. So she came down with me, and I pushed the play, because I had heard the message come in, without, the answering machine picked up and it played, the person talking. So I hit play, and no messages. Hit play again, no messages. Look at the caller ID. No one's called since the night before. I said, Mom, I swear to you, the telephone rang 5 times, the answering machine picked up, and the voice said, we will meet you at the cemetery at 9 a.m. And my mom said, oh, that was my mother, who had already passed on when I was a baby. I think I was 6 months old when she passed. That was her mother communicating with us, telling us that she would meet us at the cemetery, or she would meet my mom at the cemetery and be there to greet her brother as he came home. So they will, our relatives will communicate with us, and they will do it because they don't mean us any harm. They don't mean to scare us at all. So they will do it in whatever way they anticipate will be the most accepting to us. Now, the only situation that I've had that was different than that, we have a lot of activity at our house, depending on what part of the house you live in. And while we were doing some renovations on the house, I had actually moved up on my parents' side, and they were remodeling my grandfather's house, which was right next to us because he had passed. And I had a lot of stressful stuff going on at the time, and I was being woken up at odd hours of the night. And generally I'm up till 2 a.m. and then I get up at 6 a.m. I feed the pets and I'll go back to sleep for a couple of hours. And I was being woken up at weird hours of the night. Now, if it was just me waking up, out of a dead sleep for no reason, fine. But when it jolts me awake and the dogs wake up, the two little dogs who are sleeping with me wake up and are barking at it, then I know that, okay, something would, yell or make loud booms. I've since moved where I sleep in the house, and they haven't found me yet. But now my dad's back over on his side, and my dad he'll sleep on the couch, but he doesn't like sleeping in his own bedroom because he thinks there's something in the closet, which we're pretty sure is an elemental. And so generally, he has two Siameses that sleep with him, and Siameses are pretty cool about, dealing with the supernatural and paranormal activity. So they sleep with him on the couch, but he won't sleep in his bedroom for anything. And my mom's only home from November to March because she works up in Ely, Minnesota, for the North American Bear Center. So she goes up there and then he's home. And he doesn't like sleeping, by himself, except he has the two Siameses. And so, and he has the German Shepherd is actually more his than it is my brother's, but because the German Shepherd likes to get into trouble, he gets it. He has his own bedroom. So, but yeah, our loved ones will, they'll communicate with us. And they'll try to they'll do something that something that was a classic behavior for them, that you remember of them. That is how they will try to communicate with you. Now, if you had a relative who was mean or hateful or just very bad to deal with, generally they will do the stuff that is trying to scare you and cause problems.
Or they'll come to you with something only you know.
Yes.
That happened to me.
Yes. Yeah, my mom's side of the family is my aunts and my female cousins. We all have psychic abilities. We're all pagan. So generally, if something comes to one of us, we'll all talk and okay, this is what, and we can generally figure it out. What's going on, who's trying to talk to us, what's happening. So message received, being processed. We'll get back to you on that, as soon as it's solved. So anybody else? Anybody just want to talk ghosts? I don't know. We got 10 minutes. We can talk ghosts.
I don't know if you talked about this or not, but how do you know if you have psychic abilities or kind of like connect with that, or?
If you've had weird stuff happening to you all your life, I always call it the curse of knowing, because you would just get this anticipation or this positive feeling that something was going to happen. And generally, it used to happen a lot with going out, for the night or stuff like that. I knew once I asked a person within 24 hours if they were going to back out of going to the movies or going on a trip. And when they told me, oh, hey, this came up, and it's like, no, it didn't. You just don't want to go. You're making excuses. I already knew. So if you have that kind of stuff happening, generally you do have your psychic abilities. That's one of the biggest ways is if you have premonitions or anticipation of what's going to happen in the future, or your dreams are very detailed and you're remembering them after you wake up. Because a lot of us have, dreams throughout the night, but we don't wake up. We don't remember them once we've woken up. Or if we do, if we don't write them down immediately, 2 hours later after we've woken up, they're gone. We can't remember what, what had us so worked up in that dream, or so generally, if you can remember the details of that dream, then you're more sensitive and you have psychic abilities. If you go to a rock shop or one of the gem and mineral shops that's here, and you can feel the different vibrations of stones. If some feel more soothing than others, gauge yourself, see how it makes you feel, and then if they have little cards that tell you what the stone actually does, read and see if that's how you felt. If you have a green thumb. Now, this doesn't always hold true, because I know quite a few pagans who can't grow anything, and just refuse to garden. They buy their herbs, their magical herbs from everybody else. But others of us, we can throw roots in the ground and walk away, and a month later we've got a huge, mint plant growing. Animals, if you have different animals just coming to visit you for no reason. Last night, I'm trying to get sleep because I know I'm going to be here all day today. Went to bed at midnight. At 1 o'clock in the morning, because we live kind of country, and we have foxes. We have a group of foxes who live in the surrounding woods, and for whatever reason, Miss Fox decided she was going out on a date last night. So for 2 hours straight, I heard this wonderful "Yarr, yarr, yarr," every 20 minutes, sometimes every 5 minutes for 2 hours straight. And you would think, with her being, 500 feet into the woods, it wouldn't be that loud, but oh no, she was loud last night. But this time wasn't as bad. The first time she did it was back in February or January, and it was. I'm going to give you my banshee story. So, the previous week, my mom and dad had gone to a casino down in French Lick, Indiana, and I was telling them about the goat man on the bridge down there, and which you'll have to come to the Cryptozoology of Michigan to hear about. But during the same episode of this TV show that had the goat man on it, there was a story about the banshee, how it screams and everything like that. So this is Friday morning, 9 a.m. So Saturday morning at 5:30 a.m., I'm hearing this screeching outside the house. And at first I thought it was my one dog talking in her sleep. But then it became like every 10 minutes, and it was getting closer. And once it registered that this wasn't coming from the dog, it was coming from outside, that's when the oh shit hits. And I'm thinking, oh my God, it's the banshee. It's come to take somebody from my household. And I'm like, it's 5:30 in the morning. I have to let the dogs out at 6 a.m. So, and it's still going on. So at 6 a.m., I have a Connie Corso Mastiff, which looks like a black gargoyle. She's about 90 pounds. So I walk up to the front door, and I have to tie her, put her on her tie out. So I'm having a conversation with the dog. Okay, if we walk outside and there's a scary woman on a black horse, you go after the horse. I'm going to beat the scary woman with a baseball bat, and we're going to send the banshee running. So got her on the chain. I have the baseball bat. Whip open the door. We both go exploding out. Outdoor lights are on. There's nothing out there. So I'm like, okay, what the hell was making that noise? And I'm like, the foxes. And I named all the foxes. So I'm like, Fifi, you French bitch. Scared the hell out of me for nothing. So that's my banshee story. I was going to take on the banshees at 6 o'clock in the morning because the fox was being obnoxious and doing her mating call. And I haven't heard her do it very much. But last night it was just like, 2 hours? Really? You can't find a male fox within 2 hours? Honey, you need to go further into the woods. Well, I think she was either calling for her kits, or she was calling for something, because she was for 2 hours. She just was just, and she had, like last year she had, there was 2 females, and they both had 2 kits with them. And I know this because we put out food for like the rabbits, the squirrels, the birds, and the foxes help themselves to whatever they want. So that's my closing story, me taking on the banshees. So thank you all for coming. If you're coming back for the noon one for cryptozoology, it's again in this room at 12 o'clock noon, and I will see you all there. My podcast is Into the Liminal Abyss. I have it on hiatus right now, but it will have new episodes in May, going into June. So if you look on my Facebook page for Shetan Noir, just friend me, and I'll put the links up there. And I also run on Facebook the Michigan chapter of the North American Dogman Project, and the Michigan Center for Unexplained Phenomenon. And those are both.
Speaking of unexplained phenomena, science hasn't explained how bicycles stay out, and they call it the ghost ride. It's a BMX ride. I'm a BMXer.
Uh-huh.
I taught myself how to ghost jump a ramp.
Uh-huh.
So you jump off the bike flies over the ramp, and you jump back on the bike.
Uh-huh.
But I was just wondering what you thought about that.
It's possible. I'm a big, believer in magic. Like, I believe that, like airplanes, how do airplanes stay in the air? To me, that's all magic. How does my Jeep get home when it's, on E and it's still, driving? So there's a lot that we can do with just believing in ourselves and what we're doing.
Yeah, and it seems like the more you believe in the ghost trick, it actually works for you.
Yeah.
If you jump off, it'll only go so far.
Right.
And if the bike isn't built perfectly and balanced, it won't.
Right. Oh yeah. That can throw you off. Yeah.
Cool.
Thank
Nice
you.
presentation.
Thank you.